clothes carry meaning. They tell stories about ourselves or the world around us. But they do more than communicate. They touch us, move us, and shape our experiences. How do clothes affect us? Hi, I'm Judith Brachen. I'm an art historian and fashion theorist. And this is Moden. Anrealage's Spring-Summer 2026 collection gives us a glimpse of the affectivity of fashion. The garments themselves seem to breathe, to pulse, and have a life of their own, even when the models do not move. Here, clothes are not passive coverings for an animate body. They burst with emotion, as the press statement of the label puts it. They blur the boundaries between wearer and worn. They make visible something we usually cannot see, that clothes and fashion impact us just as much as we impact them. With this collection, designer Kunihiko Morinaga visualizes what is slowly but surely finding its way into the perception of fashion. That dress is agentic and affective. For decades, fashion research focused on clothing as a system of signs. Styles, cuts, and trends were interpreted as texts to be decoded. Collections were analyzed and deciphered in terms of their references. And a style was something that conveyed a fixed inner identity to the outside world. Lifeless clothes only came to life when worn. But a paradigm shift in the humanities has led to fashion scholars understanding matter and material as agentic on their own. It is no longer just the wearer who is actively involved in the actualization of fashion, but also the clothes, textiles, technology, and fibers involved. From this perspective, clothing and textiles are not just passive objects. They can generate pre-conscious intensities that influence the wearer. In other words, clothes affect us. The ideas regarding affectivity connect back to a much longer philosophical tradition, reaching back thousands of years. Philosophers like Plato and Aristotle were already concerned with how affects shape human behavior, laying the groundwork for later ideas. One important thinker in this field is Baruch de Spinoza, who wrote on this topic in the 17th century. For Spinoza, affects are changes in a body's capacity to act and be acted upon, caused by encounters with other bodies, which can be human or non-human. A body, then, is not defined by what it is, but by what it can do. This early understanding of affect highlights the relational quality of bodies. In the 20th century, philosophers Gilles Deleuze and Félix Guattari radicalized Spinoza's ideas. They see bodies as dynamic fields of forces and intensities that are constantly changing through encounters. Seen this way, fashion does not convey a fixed identity, but influences our ever-changing self. Deleuze and Guattari explicitly frame these interactions as affects, the pre-conscious intensities that shape both bodies and the space around them. And some designers render these forces visible in their work. Hussein Chalayan is one of these designers who oftentimes uses technology not for its own sake, but to convey the changes and influences that originate in fashion. His floating dress, created in collaboration with Swarovski, challenges our expectations of body, garment, and movement. At the end of his Autumn-Winter 2011 show, a stiff garment that already traces the contours of a body stands motionless at the center of the runway. A model steps into the garment and, without her doing, they both begin to float across the stage. The dress has set them both in motion. After the model steps out of the dress, it begins to move and glide on its own. Another example is his collection 111. With this work, Chalayan materializes the very nature of fashion, its changing cycle, through transformations. Dresses shorten themselves on the runway, layers retract, and necklines shift autonomously. He demonstrates that there are no fixed states but continuous processes of transformation, and that the clothes have as much influence on the body as the body has on the clothes. The collection does not simply represent transformation, but enacts it. Through this work, Chalayan shows how garments visualize affectivity. Their autonomous movements reveal the invisible interplay of forces between body and material, making affect perceptible. Constant movement and the influence of fashion can also be found in Iris van Herpen's Infinity dress, which she created in collaboration with sculpture artist Anthony Howe. The strapless feather dress is surrounded by a delicate construction made of aluminium and stainless steel, onto which white feathers are integrated. Even when the model stands still, positioning herself in the omniverse sculpture on the runway, the dress constantly circles around her, giving the impression of an expanding and contracting garment. The feathers lightly brush against the model's arms, as if actively touching her. Van Herpen's design materializes the invisible energy of bodily interaction and movement into a visible and tactile phenomenon. For Deleuze and Guattari, affects are the very changes that occur when bodies come into contact. And yet, these relations remain mostly invisible. But the two philosophers not only devoted themselves to affects and changing identities in their texts, they also attempted to find out how affects become visible. For them, what makes the affective forces of the world tangible is art. The work of art is a being of sensation and nothing else. It exists in itself. In their view, art does not simply represent what we see, and artists do not try to copy the world. Artists frame the world, making affects visible. Art puts us in contact with forces that move and shape both bodies and space. Following the two French philosophers, artist and writer Simon O'Sullivan also understands art as a bundle of effects. They cannot be read, only experienced. Theorist Elizabeth Grosz similarly describes art as a way of framing the chaos of affect, capturing and giving shape to forces that would otherwise remain ungraspable. Artists materialize experiences and effects in their art, which then in turn affect the viewer. This perspective on art tries to establish a new way of looking. While we usually search for meanings, for metaphors and statements, here it is about feeling and experiencing art. This philosophical understanding lends itself particularly well to fashion. Fashion as an art form can be experienced, perhaps even more directly than a painting or a sculpture. Nothing comes as close to us as dress. It touches our bodies more intimately than any other art form. And even without wearing it, we can, simply by looking at textiles, imagine how they might feel on our skin. And in watching a fashion show, whether live or on screen, we are immersed in the art. We hear the soundtrack, see the art in motion. We can imagine wearing it and experience its staging. By understanding fashion as an active participant in who we become and how we feel, we can see that clothes are not inert. This becomes evident in the collections of Anrealage. In the collection called Wind, jackets inflate and influence the model's gait and posture. In the Autumn-Winter 2023 collection, white garments on the runway revealed their transformative potential when, under UV light, they suddenly presented a print that had previously been invisible. Designer Kunihiko Morinaga uses technology to question the relationship between clothing, body, and technology, to surprise us and, above all, to make us experience fashion. In his latest collection, 3 models open the show, the room still bathed in dim light. The models stand at the entrance of the runway. Their pastel ruffled garments seem to expand and contract, to have a heartbeat that is also reflected in the soundtrack. Countless rows of ruffles lie on the models' bodies and pulsate. Throughout the presentation, different kinds of moving, living garments are presented. Long skirts, dresses, and jackets with reinforced hems that ripple and move seem to dance on their own, even when the models stand still. Cape-like garments in colorful patterns made of transparent fabric open and close and appear to stroke the models, at times even touching their faces. Besides the garments, there are also playful, almost gimmicky accessories such as furry bags with moving cattails, as well as handbags and shoes with integrated displays. Anrealage's approach combines movement, tactility, and visual innovation, creating a multisensory experience. The prints of the collection were developed in collaboration with a creative enterprise that works with artists with disabilities to transform their work into art. Designer Morinaga is quoted in the press statement, saying that he felt the artists did not create mere art, but the crystallization of life itself. Here we find a literal connection to what theorists such as Elizabeth Grosz or Simon O'Sullivan describe, that art crystallizes affects, the invisible forces which life itself is made of. In this collection we observe wavy hems that dance, capes that brush and caress, and ruffled tops that pulsate and breathe. The clothing itself becomes alive. It reveals through motion the dynamic, relational forces between body and garment. In this way, Anrealage makes affects tangible. How can we describe collections like this? How can we put into words something that is based on experience and feeling rather than on meaning and representation? As Simon O'Sullivan notes, affects lie outside of discourse and text. They are not described, they are felt. They are the body's material reactions to intensities, to connections, to changes. To engage with fashion through an affective lens demands a shift in how we look. To not ask which eras a fashion collection references or what inspiration was chosen as the season's theme, but instead to let the clothes affect us, to experience their energy and prioritize felt encounters over interpretation. Thus, viewing fashion as affective necessitates new ways of seeing, of describing, of engaging. To ask not only what a garment means, but what it does, how it resonates, and what it evokes in us. Although these forces and affective relations are present in all garments, designers like Hussein Chalayan or Kunihiko Morinaga make these effects visible. Of course, they use technologies, motion sensors, and kinetic elements to do so. Yet, what they show is not primarily technology, it is sensation. And while art and fashion can and will always be read, interpreted, and analyzed, while they might always represent something, maybe we could just sometimes let collections like Anrealage's latest show remind us of what O'Sullivan names the true function of art. It reconnects us with the world and opens up new worlds beyond the human one. And perhaps the most beautiful thing about art and fashion, it materializes something we can feel but could never quite put into words. Thank you for watching. You can find all references down below. And I hope to see you in the next episode of Moden.